Hey everybody, welcome to Surface Level, curious conversations about the Black and queer experience. I'm one of your hosts, Tony, and today, Jordan, Damon, and I are discussing the impact of social media on sexuality. Hookup app do's and don'ts. I'll give a scenario and you say whether it's a do for you or a don't. Send early sexual comments.
Do.
Hell do.
Don't.
Do. Your generation doesn't know what not having access to these apps looks like.
Yeah, without jacked. I'm like, how does someone have a whole face?
Clinginess.
Don't.
Yeah, that's a don't for me as well.
Don't cling on to me in life, period.
Has access to hookup apps made you more confident? Has it made you less confident?
Some of the messages that we get from some people, we're like, what are you thinking?
Using group pictures when sharing private images.
Don't, because now I'm looking at your friend, your other friend.
The apps are in their flop era.
I think people just don't know how to have boundaries with like sexual relationships anymore.
This is sexual media. So today is a very interesting format. And so I'm just going to kind of introduce our guests and explain what we're doing here today because it's a lot going on in the studio. So today we're bringing you a very special 2-part episode and are joined by 4 beautifully talented Black and brown queer individuals who have started a podcast journey of their own with hopes of bringing light to having a core friend group that is supportive, that is willing to learn and grow from their experiences and not afraid to challenge the perspective of their listeners. As fellow podcasters, Jordan, Damon, and I have enjoyed watching them grow and evolve. And these are fun girls. We've run into them in New York City on the scene, in the streets, and it's always love. And so today we welcome Mayce, Damontae, Ja, and Sakani, hosts of Busy Boys Uncensored Podcast, to our Surface Level family.
I mean, you wrote a mouthful.
You ate that.
That was beautiful. Thank you
What
so
a beautiful
much.
introduction.
Ciao.
So much.
It's a lot of us in the studio today, but we're going to break it up into 2 parts so that we can really have, space is limited, first of all. Otherwise, we'd be all sitting on each other's laps, which I might not mind. So as I mentioned, we're going to have 2 parts. And the first part is going to be focused on hookup apps. So think of your Jacks, your Grinders, your Sniffies, Scruff, stuff like that. But before we get into that sexual exploration, before we go deeper, let's start on the surface level with an icebreaker of hookup app do's and don'ts. I'll give a scenario and you say whether it's a do for you or a don't. Okay? So the first one, send early sexual comments. Do or don't? Damontae.
Oh.
Do.
Mayce.
Do. Hell do.
Don't.
Damon.
It's also weird that you said Damontae, and I started thinking you were. I was like
The
wait,
names.
Yeah.
Yes. Sending early sexual comments. Do.
I'm like, let's get straight to the point.
Next, asking for nudes. Damontae.
Do.
Mayce.
Do.
Yeah.
Damon. Yes, that's a yes for me. Sending unsolicited nudes. Damontae.
Do.
Mayce.
Maybe do. Maybe don't.
It depends.
It's like don't, but
It
situational.
depends. Yeah.
It's like
Don't,
don't
but
until the
situational.
ones that you want to do.
yeah. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, it depends on how I'm feeling.
It's just like I don't like that. Oh, look at that pleasant surprise.
But I'm gonna say it's a don't. But if I'm feeling a certain way, maybe. Clinginess.
Don't.
Damontae. Don't.
Do not.
Mayce.
Yep. Don't.
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 Damon. Yeah, that's a don't for me as well.
Don't cling on to me in life, period.
Visible face pic on your profile. Damontae.
I'm in between. I like a little mysterious thing happening. So I don't know.
Okay.
We gonna make that an
Third
answer.
option. Do, because I hate asking for a face picture. That should be there.
Damon.
Do.
For me, I don't think I've ever had a open visible face pic on my my profile.
But
so.
then I was doing this fucking show, and I'm talking about all this other crazy shit with my full face available. So like,
Well, yeah, you want to stand
then
in
it
your
became
truth.
silly. That was
You
like,
wanna
why
stand
am
in
I
your
hiding
truth.
myself now?
I'm gonna say don't because I've just never done it. Sexual health status displayed. Damontae.
Do, but even that is sometimes a lie, so it doesn't even matter.
Okay.
Do, but I'll leave it up to you. you know.
Okay.
If you want to disclose.
Do, and I'm still gonna ask you. That we need to normalize talking about sex health.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say do as well. Using group pictures when sharing private images. Damontae.
I would say
Ooh.
don't, because now I'm looking at your friend, your other friend, your cousin. Like, it's too much.
Macy.
Do, are they coming?
Mason is shared the whole Busy Boys thing.
Yeah.
Don't. No, I don't want to. Yeah, no, because then I'm distracted. Like, what if then I'm like, oh, but who's that behind you? Like,
Right.
that's the real question. I'm like, are they in your vicinity?
Yeah,
And
I'm gonna say don't as well. And that's for them sending and me. I would never send a group.
Yeah, I don't have
Yeah,
any.
no.
I don't have any.
Ghost someone. Do or don't, Damontae.
What?
To ghost someone.
Oh, I want to say don't, but I do it. So I'm just gonna
Alas.
do.
Yeah.
Macy.
Do. Dua Lipa just came out with a song called French Exit. You know
Oh,
what
I heard
means?
that song.
Okay.
It's one of the good songs
French
on her
Exit,
album.
Exit is ghosting someone. And she just made it so pretty.
I didn't even realize that was it
Okay.
about. It is pretty. I didn't realize that's what the song was about. Oh, I have the same answers to Monte. Like, don't in theory, but like I can't say that I'm just like, you know, I'm a.
Yeah. I'm gonna say do. Absolutely ghost someone. Like, yeah, why not?
Exactly.
Some people don't
Last
do
one. Use photos from more than 2 years ago.
Don't.
Okay.
A lot changes.
Right.
Macy.
that. I say do because I do it.
Okay.
I got bangers. Like, bitch, you ate that. That's saying.
Honey,
Damon.
young, still looks the same from 2 years ago. Things get to change more quickly. That's true. I mean, it's situational. Like, you know, if you are evolving at a different rate or
Yeah.
not.
If you look completely different, that's
Evolving.
That's
It's like-
a whole different.
There's a different intention behind it. I would say, like someone using it and
Yeah.
like using it purposefully, or just
Yeah.
like, oh, I still look the same, but I haven't updated.
Right. Yeah.
But have like other pictures laid on top of that.
right. Or
Right.
do you show up and you're like, hold on.
Exactly.
And last but not least, we ask all of our guests, what are you curious about, Damontae?
Right now, I'm curious about. I'm curious about like just vulnerability in different ways.
Okay.
As it can relate to art, it can relate to friendships, it can relate to relationships, it can relate to just the process of art making. So yeah.
And Macy, what are you curious
Yeah,
about?
you know what I'm curious about? I'm curious about, of all the topics, why are we talking about sex today? Why us? Why the Busy Boys?
So it's not you.
Oh.
It's so this season is all about sex and sexuality over here at Surface Level Podcast LLC.
Gotcha.
And in that, we are covering the gamut of all things from sexual health to sexual expression on the apps to you name it. And so this is just another iteration that we're bringing to the people. And we thought, let's have a generational conversation with our juniors. And we love what you guys are doing, and we wanted to bring you into this conversation.
Okay.
And also, I think the people will get a kick out of seeing us all together.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Naturally.
That's why.
Absolutely.
And we actually love what you're doing, like I said at the top in that beautiful introduction.
Yeah.
So I'm going to now ground us in a little bit of Zeta, because we like to just have something to just keep in your mind. So according to pewresearch.org, lesbian, gay, and bisexual adults are more likely than their straight counterparts to have ever used a dating site or app, 51% versus 28%. Men who have sex with men face increased sexualization at 56%. And 56% of LGB, lesbian, gay, bisexual people report receiving explicit, unasked for photos, messages, compared to 32% for heterosexuals. So I guess they're saying that as a community, we just are,
We outside.
we outside. And according to a survey conducted by thegaytherapycenter.com, it says that it's a myth that people just look at the photos on the apps without reading the profiles. It says that 91% of people are actually looking at the pics and reading the profiles. It said it's a myth that people on the apps just want sex and no one wants a relationship, saying that 43% are looking for a partner versus 30% are looking for sex or sexual partner. And lastly, it says it's a myth that people want lots of back and forth texting before meeting up, saying 28% will text 10 times before asking to link up versus another 28% saying 5 times or less before asking to link up. I wonder how many times this group sends a message back and forth before saying, come over, or I'm coming over. So let's get into the conversation. The first question is, how has the accessibility to hookup apps, so again, your grinders, your jacks, sniffies, all of that stuff, impacted your sexual exploration? Damontae, you want to start?
Sure. I will say, like, it's been different. I feel like in college I would use it a lot more, but that's also like a time where I was just kind of like having fun, and I was just doing my, I was feeling my oats, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I was just like outside, and also it's just like kind of being like one of the fresh days on the block. It was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do it. But I think now that I'm getting older, it's like I don't really want to resort to that being how I kind of like base connections off of. And then also like coming out of a like relationship, I'm like, I was using it at one point, then I realized maybe I'm using it for the wrong reasons. So yeah, I'm a little indifferent. I'm just like, it's fun to like explore sexually, but it doesn't necessarily have to mean anything like what people would think. Like, I don't really have like a direct answer for that.
Yeah, I'm also curious because and correct me if I'm wrong, which you will, but your generation doesn't know what not having access to these apps looks like because you've always had it.
Yeah.
So,
I would say we have, to be honest.
Yeah, I was gonna answering the question. I'm like, without jacked, I'm like, how does someone have a hoe face?
Yeah.
Like, what do you just like go to the club and like hope like somebody
Exactly.
like, somebody finds you cute and you like go home together?
I mean,
Yeah.
it's
That's
funny.
one way.
I was
It's a
having
hot dance though.
Yeah.
I was having a discussion with my husband before I left the house about this. And my husband, for reference, is 10 years older than me.
Married.
And we were just like, and we were talking about how people hook up, and he's just like, well, the things have always been there. They were just different. And like, so you had traditional cruising or like Adam for Adam or some of the like various websites. And I think and when we were talking, I was like, the main difference is like the accessibility kind of explodes when you put it on your phone.
Yeah.
And that's the point where it's just like you got like, it doesn't matter if I'm at my home at the computer. No, I'm at the girls at brunch trying to figure out what they're doing after brunch.
Exactly.
And I think that's a different level of accessibility. So yeah, you can really get in your whole face bag a lot easier.
Yeah.
You could go on a tour with it.
Oh,
Literally.
hello? Girl, different filters. What are you feeling today?
Global.
Going to Houston, New Orleans.
Right.
What's
In town,
cool?
12:20 to 12:22. Who's around?
Yeah, I remember, I think the first, it wasn't an app, it was actually a website called BGC, Black Gay Chat.
Yes.
Oh my god.
And that was sort of like the beginning of, for me, like this Adam for Adam and all that stuff you mentioned as well, but BGC was the one that was like booming, and it had a very specific sound that it would chime and make. And honey, if you had your computer on or something, the girls, you definitely would be uncovered and revealed. But I think the accessibility, like you all have said, it just has made it a lot easier. It's like kind of like Uber Eats. I pick up the thing and I look through and see what I want and make a decision. Is that is it appealing? Is it tasty? Is it juicy?
Right.
And I get to hit that button and have a back and forth and have them come over, or I go over there. Like, that's what it's become. It's just become like a lot more easier to,
I think it
get your life.
But I also think it for like, if I think when I was first on apps, like that's where I met my first boyfriend. We're still friends on Grindr.
Okay.
And we're still friends today, and that was 13 years ago. And I think that you can have connection with people no matter the context. And I think for me, it was very helpful I didn't come out till after college. I was like in a city that didn't like, in New York, like you can get away with maybe not being digitally on all the time because there's so many places to find community and people and connection and so on. But like I was in Boston 13 years ago looking for other Black queer folks and not just coming to terms with my own queerness. So like it was a very helpful tool for me at that point. And it wasn't just like, I want to fuck you. Like part of it could be that it was that at certain times, but I think there's a balance.
And the other thing is that what Macy brought up in terms of, he was like, how do you have a hoe phase? And it's really tricky because I was out in college, and so I was in the streets and I was getting my life, whereas a lot of my friends were not. And so I was able to meet someone in person and have that experience. However, if you are not out yet and you want to explore your sexuality, the apps are the way to kind of allow you to be able to do that.
Yeah. See, I was definitely out in high school, so I was like,
Me too.
I was outside already. But I feel like the apps definitely did make it more accessible to meet people. So I kind of had like the experience of meeting people both ways.
Yeah.
But I feel there's like I feel like you can talk differently when you're like on the apps or like social media in general than how you can like come off in person. So it was like a different interaction because if we like in the bedroom, I may talk a different way than how I am outside.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a different experience for
Absolutely.
It just made me think though, the way that we're speaking about accessibility, it kind of sounds privileged in a sense. Like we attractive looking men, we have that accessibility, but some people get on that app, they're not getting no messages. There's no fats, no femmes in the profile.
Yep.
So just talking about this just made me think, is it accessibility or is it, you know, what is it really, you know?
No, that's a good question. That's a whole another can of worms that I feel like we've discussed before, and I think you all have too in terms of privilege and pretty privilege. So moving into to our second question, it's been said that the dating apps have made millennials, so Damon and I, more into casual hookups, whereas Gen Z, the two of you, are having less sex. Does that trend reflect your experience?
I was literally telling Tay back there. I was like,
we researched before we
is
came.
these numbers serious?
It's not everyone, but like that's why we're okay. Good.
Down. Which we always got a story to tell.
I live.
So I was like, but the numbers were true.
But
it was like 95% of millennials are hooking up, and only like 60 something for Gen Z. So the numbers were true. I was shocked.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like
I don't know what they got going on in that Gen Z lifestyle, but I'm a fan.
Yeah, absolutely.
You and your friend.
Absolutely. I saw something that said that Gen Z is into this like commitment culture where it's using like being, at least I think on TikTok, where it's like seeing couples do content together and it's like that is desirable, that is getting likes, that's getting views. People want that, and so people want to have that commitment with the partner to be content creators together, which is
but that's also just like it's a facade, and I feel like that's a lot of like social media shit at this point too. It's like, okay, we all can look like we have it, but do we really like got it? And I think that just goes down to like the romance, the kind of like the fantasy of romance. They want to like play in that, and obviously if the check clears, bitch, we gonna keep playing this game too. So but I feel like it just comes down to a point where it's like I feel like a lot of people now are into like a lot of self-pleasure too, and the discovery amongst that. At least that's where I feel like I am sometimes. I'm like, I don't necessarily need someone to please me all the time. Like I can do it myself. So but there's other ways to do it too. Like it's not just about the penetration of it either, I feel like.
So you could be open to a side lifestyle, is what you're saying?
That's hot. I love a side.
I'm gonna come back to that.
We'll circle back at the end.
You can circle back.
I do think it's important though, like when we're talking about sex and social media and even what that plays into relationships, I think it glorifies just the romantic, just the highs. It's part of like the reason why I'm very private about my relationship online. Like unless you know, you probably won't know. And I've had the experience of being very public about it. And that same relationship I've talked about before was abusive. So like we're in a scenario where we're smiling, we're grinning, everybody is, y'all are goals, I want that. And meanwhile, the door's closed and there's all types of crazy shit happening. And I think that I'd be interested actually if people were to make relationship-based content around like the true experiences they're having. Like how do you work through disagreements? How are you like learning that person? But like that's not what people want. That's not what brands want to buy into. Like the brands buying into it really drives me fucking insane. Like you can't buy into my relationship. But I think that's the thing that is often lost when we take relationship, we take sexuality, and then we try and commodify it into something that we sell on an app.
Yeah. Now, going back to like Macy said, we fucking the millennials in these streets here, y'all like y'all are having a good time. I wonder if it's also geographically driven. If
True.
it's
We live in a New York bubble.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if it's like if you're not in a metropolitan city, does that look different for you? So let's move on to our next question, and it's about confidence. I want to know, has access to hookup apps made you more confident? Has it made you less confident? You get your rejections. You can still be a bad bitch and get on to an app and still get
You be on the app like,
denied.
nah, I know I ain't this fucking ugly. Like, what is going on with me? It's just like,
you're
nobody
like,
like
I'm
me.
not, you're clicking down. And so has your confidence increased? Has it made it worse? The apps, like what does that do for you, for your sexual confidence, for your sexual expression?
It's so funny because me, Tay, and Sakani were talking back, and we were saying some of the messages we get from some people were like, what are you thinking? You think that I was going to get with you? So I'm like, what does that do for my confidence? But I guess I'm flattered, but not really. But yeah.
I think it's also when you send a message out and you don't get a response, it's like, that kind of hurt a little bit. Like, but also I just kind of look at it like, okay, next.
Yeah.
But also it's just like, it's kind of like a game in a sense. You just see where it fits, and if it doesn't, you want to keep applying pressure, you can, and you probably get a response that way. And I feel like it can definitely fuck with your head mentally a little bit.
Yeah.
But not to the point where it's like I'm exhausted, because it's like at the end of the day, we both on the apps, so it's like we both looking for something.
Yeah.
But I feel like it can be like taxing a little bit. Not on like, do I look okay? But it's like, am I okay about it? Like, it's more like a mental versus physical game, I feel like.
I think there's something interesting you said about kind of like this gamification of interacting with people. Like we're kind of just like I'm gonna throw out as many irons in the fire as you can, and
cast
you
a wide
see
net.
what happens, and then like it becomes this thing where you're questioning like, how do I feel about myself? Like, do I look great? Like maybe I look better in person. And I think also like as I was thinking about this, it removes like when you meet people in person, there's this moment where you can like both actively engage each other. Like you catch somebody's out at a club, or like you're at a friend's house for a game night, and you like see a person and y'all kind of vibe, versus like I'm putting myself out there and I hope that you respond. Like there is no kind of way to mutual. I guess some apps let you like both swipe left and right, but like even that, it just becomes like, I don't know, it lacks connection, I think, a lot of times.
Yeah, I think there's like no one likes to be rejected, right?
Yeah.
And so when you do put yourself out there, whether it's in person or on a dating app or hookup app, you leave yourself susceptible to, having your feelings hurt.
Yeah.
And you also like miss, I don't know, like some people you meet in person and like maybe physically they're not like you're a 10 out of 10, but then like there's something about their energy you really like, or there's something about a conversation you find attractive, or like they're funny and you're like engaged with them. Or you see somebody on these apps, you think they're fucking hot, and then you meet up with them in person and they're a fucking jackass. And you're just like, you won't ever get a piece of anything.
Yeah.
And I think you miss out on like the holistic experience of a person, which I think is helpful when you were saying earlier, like sometimes people read the profiles. Because sometimes people are putting funny things. You're like, I want to know about why you put that there. And like it kind of can be a conversation starter.
That's the entryway in. It's like when you actually like read, because people, I think sometimes on the apps, people test folks to be like, you ask them something and they can tell automatically that you didn't even read what I wrote down.
Well, like, no, I didn't read the essay.
Well, sometimes the girls are like, I hate everybody and the gays don't love me.
God.
I'm like, why are you doing
so
this?
angry.
It's
Like,
why are we angry?
Therapy.
I'm just like, we're here for dates and sex. And friends. Maybe friends.
Yeah. I feel
Like,
a
nobody's
lot
here to
of
fight.
friends-
I'm
Make
not
no
gonna
friends
fight.
on them.
I've made friends.
I've made friends off of apps, and honestly, it hasn't even been like physical, but it's just like you connect with people in different ways, and it doesn't necessarily have to be just like let's fuck.
Was it
it's
before or after the dick pic?
But I was gonna say, how does that develop?
I can also
That's
fuck
so
somebody
small.
and become friends with
Be
them.
friends. Now that I understand.
well, I'm saying,
I am I'll fuck my friend's person. So like I don't believe that those things have to be separate.
Macy looked at you like,
Got it.
That doesn't have to be separate. Like you can get a dick pic, you can
Noted.
fuck, y'all can have a great time, and y'all can still be friends. I have lots of friends I've had a sexual relationship with. Like what is, like I don't, how I felt about those things being separate. I don't think they have to be.
I mean,
This is like I hate it.
you have
Like,
a
let me
hot
out
take
of
on
it.
that, Macy?
I believe in.
Separation
Put
of
in
church and
them-
state.
I'm a little autistic. I believe in some tradition.
I need
I need
this.
some.
This is
Put you in this bucket. Put you in that bucket, and let's keep those buckets separate.
Yeah, I mean, listen. Sometimes when you're trying to have gumbo and it's giving
pour all the
weight,
buckets
Some
together.
chickens.
it's giving girl. That's so. Going back to the apps for a second, I want to talk about whether or not they're still thriving as a means for sexual connections, or if the apps are in their flop era. Is it giving, okay, it's over for you, it's late, it's tired, it's dirty, it's punchy, we've moved on, the apps are no longer giving me sexual healing, it's giving me mental
Urge.
instability.
I feel like it's kind of flopping a little bit just because there's so much more happening with social media in general. So it's like even you want to like maybe like connect with someone and they could just air your shit out just because they feel like it on like Twitter or like Instagram or something, and then it's like, damn, now the whole block know I'm hot. Like, it's just
Yeah.
like it's some shit like that. Like I think people just don't know how to have boundaries with like sexual relationships anymore. It's such a thing that people just want to like expose to make themselves look better, but you end up just looking like an asshole. But I do feel like it's kind of in this flop era just because, well, I don't have it personally downloaded right now. I feel like I was using it for like the wrong reasons at one point. So I was like, let me take a step back and actually reflect on why I'm doing it and how I'm going about it with myself. So personally, I do think it's in this flop era, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I can't really say. I feel like every other day I'm seeing a viral Grindr screenshot.
Yeah.
Somebody's getting catty or some shit like that. There's always some type of screenshot out there. I don't know if it's flopping. I think girls are still using them.
I mean, the girls are using them.
Yeah.
I just wonder if it's more of like, because you download, you delete it, you download, you delete it, and it's like reluctant. It's like I want to get my life, I have to go to this thing. It's kind of just right. It's
like
just
routine.
like, yeah.
What should my name be?
Yeah.
Like login already saved.
Right. I say I'm gonna say flop, but I just think generally we're at a place in society where there's so much access to digital connection that people may want more like actual in-person connection. And I think also like currently coming a few years out of a pandemic, like everybody was locked away and had to use phones as most people, let's say, were using a phone as like a means for connection. And I think it's nice to be able to talk to some people or go to a park or meet someone out somewhere. And I also think that it always goes back to me about how you use a thing. And I've said this before, like people pigeonhole apps into this is only sexual. I can only talk to you about sex. Like we can only do this thing. Whereas the thing I'm consistently saying, our community is small. The community of queer people is small. The community of black and brown queer people is even smaller. The same people that you are on an app are the same people that are at the club, that are at the bar, that you work with, that are on this podcast.
Yeah.
So I think that when you pigeonhole someone, maybe you meet the love of your life and that you just happen to be on Scruff. And that's what it is. And like maybe don't like shut that person off just as like a fuck. Or maybe you meet this great friend.
Some of my best situationships have come from apps.
Nice.
I love.
Are you still friends with them to this day?
define friends?
Right.
Well, we got to put it in your bucket.
Right. Which you define the bucket.
Well, I had a whole boyfriend from the app,
Okay.
so
It's
but,
possible.
It's definitely possible. Like, I hate when people are immature. Like, oh, you can't make something more just because you met on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a little funny telling the story. How'd you guys meet?
Well, you know
About that.
At a certain page, you just don't ask queer people how they met. Okay, let's be more specific.
Oh, right.
How'd y'all meet? Don't ask me that.
You gotta make something up.
Well, what's interesting for me is that right now, the apps have been in their flop era for me because I've been in a committed relationship. It's an open format, but I got off of the apps because it's trouble. It's trouble afoot. So I don't want to go looking for trouble, but trouble will find you. But it's not necessary. I don't even want to use the word trouble. I just don't want to be in the Michigas. Like, I rather spend my time having in-person connections. And if I meet someone in person and something, happens, fine, perfectly fine.
Yeah.
However, I do know that because I'm in a relationship, like there are folks that are in relationships married that are still on the apps. It's whatever floats your boat, right?
My boat floats.
It's definitely in its flop era for me. And we are coming up right on time for part 2 of sexual media. So I just want to get from Damontae and Mayce, if you have any hot take around this topic that you'd like to share before we bring on the other members of Busy Boys Uncensored.
Any hot takes?
And you may not.
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think not with like apps right now. No.
No hot takes. That's fine. So we're going to wrap this up. Damon, you have.
I feel like my takes have been hot enough.
What's your hot take?
What's my hot take? It kind of goes back to this like flop era. Like I think it's hard, specifically being a New Yorker, because like it's always such a secondary thought. Like I feel like I'm checking my app if I'm like I've been out and I'm falling asleep and I'm like kind of tipsy or something, or like I've gone through my week and now it's like Saturday morning and I'm rechecking. And like even I joined like there's an app called Field, and it's their motto is like for like open-minded individuals, and it's a lot of like you can join and have a joint profile with your partner. Like you have separate ones, but they say like, and this person's partnered with this person, and there's the widest variety of just like identifiers about your sexuality and relationships. And I thought I'd be really interested in that one, and I got bored, and I was like, I'd just rather go outside.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, the hot take is that you can find your hoe or your husband on hookup apps.
Yep. Or both.
Yeah, unpopular opinion too.
Or both in one. Exactly. All right, so this is concluding part 1 of Sexual Media, where we discuss all things hookup app culture. And we are going to get into part 2, where we discuss social networking apps and its how your sexual expression derives from those apps. So you're thinking of like your Instagrams and your Snapchats and your Twitters, which is an interesting one, and your TikToks, as opposed to the hookup dating apps. So thank you both.
Thank you
you.
guys.